Farmers Market Reporter, presented by the Chicago Tribune. Let's get acquainted for Golden Mix. Cedric Foster for Montgomery Ward. The 3 o'clock Walgreen News. Meet Tommy Bartlett for Wholesome. And Words and Rhythm will not be heard today due to the World Series broadcast to be heard at this time. It's now 10 seconds before 1:15. We acknowledge the courtesy of these sponsors who have canceled their programs today for the World Series broadcast that follows immediately. Carter Products Incorporated, sponsors of John J. Anthony, and the makers of 4-Way Cold Tablets, sponsors of Cliff Edwards. We take you now to Briggs Stadium in Detroit.
Cavalcade of Sports is on the air. For the 7th consecutive year, Gillette presents the World Series. From Briggs Stadium in Detroit, we bring you the exclusive play-by-play report of the opening World Series game between the American League's pennant-winning Detroit Tigers and the Chicago Cubs, champions of the National League. Men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. And now, good afternoon, everyone, to baseball fans everywhere. This is Phil Slater with Al Helfer and Bill Corum greeting you for the Gillette Safety Razor Company. For tops in sports, tune in Gillette's Cavalcade of Sports the year round. Over various networks, Gillette airs the Kentucky Derby, football bowl games, and similar events of national interest as they occur throughout the sports calendar. Also, regularly, every Friday night, Gillette broadcasts the major boxing event of the week for fans coast to coast and overseas. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with the first game of this 45 World Series just about to get underway, there really is the usual thrilling scene, and here it is at magnificent Briggs Stadium in Detroit. It is a splendid baseball stadium. It is upper-decked all the way around, and the high bank ramparts of this stadium are just jam-packed with people as far as you can see. They are people this afternoon dressed in sweaters and heavy coats, and some with blankets, because this is football weather rather than baseball weather that we're having here. The crowd, of course, began to form outside the ticket window for the unreserved bleacher seats at 12 o'clock last night. And through the dark hours of the morning, with temperature hovering very close to freezing, they stood there to get those coveted bleacher seats, and they're all packed in there. And standing in the line was a girl and her returned paratrooper, and that's a part of the picture here at Briggs Stadium. The largest crowd that ever jam-packed its way into this stadium was back in 1940 when the Tigers played the Reds in the World Series. 55,189 attended then. It's going to be mighty close to that today. There is the band out in center field in its blue uniform. There is Harry Toby, that unique character from Oxford, Ohio, who comes out, he tells me, for the 7th consecutive World Series to dance in front of the band, attired in a very white suit and carrying a little parasol. There are all the trappings, all the celebrities, all of the tenseness, all of the thrills and enthusiasm that always go with this great American sports classic. Just a word about the nature of today's broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. We believe it to be the greatest sports hookup in the history of radio broadcasting of sports events. A tremendous number of stations in the United States and Canada, and then the overseas broadcast, in which we have a particular interest. Just as you at home are listening to this game play-by-play, our soldiers and sailors and Marines overseas are sitting at radio sets listening to it by way of the far-flung network of the Armed Forces Radio Service. This program is being shortwaved at this moment from San Francisco and New York by 13 powerful networks. It's being picked up and rebroadcast by many stations of the Far Eastern Network in the Philippines, Okinawa, Japan, and China. The Pacific Ocean Network on Iwo, the Marianas, Gilbert, and Marshall Islands. The Mosquito Network in the South Pacific, and to armed forces in the Aleutians, Alaska, and the Caribbean area. Through the Armed Forces radio stations in the Mediterranean and Italy, and the Persian Gulf Command, and through the American Forces Network to troops in the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Austria, and to our outposts in Greenland and Iceland. There is also a special shortwave relay from Honolulu to Saipan, and thence to Japan by medium wave. Men with shortwave receivers can listen directly to the best of several transmissions, and since this game is airing at such distant places as Tokyo, Guam, Luzon, and Iwo during the small hours of the morning, there will be rebroadcasts of the play-by-play description at convenient listening hours throughout the day. But we've been told that in Manila there are men so eager to hear this World Series when it is played, instead of a few hours later, that they have awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning to listen to this program. And that gives any guy a thrill, believe you me. To all the members of our armed forces overseas, we say we hope to see you back home very, very soon. And now we have seated to the left of us here a sports personality who needs no introduction to any of you. You have heard him many times on the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports broadcast. He is the famous columnist and the grand and swell guy, Bill Coram. Uncle Bill?
Thank you, Colonel Slater. Colonel Bill Slater. I think we ought to rename Halpern and make him Bill, too, so that we'd have 3 Bills up here. We'd have everybody probably well confused. Well, this is really something, Bill. I don't know when I've been as thrilled at a sports event as I am here today. Beautiful picture in Battleship Gray, Brick Stadium here in Detroit. Stands filling up very fast. I'm sure there'll be 55,000 people here when the game is started, and that will be one of the biggest crowds, of course, in the history of this park, and this series, I'm sure, will return the players the biggest check for their end that any series has ever done. Previous to that, it was back in 1935, I believe, that the Tigers beat the Cubs to get the biggest World Series players' share. But it'll be bigger this year, and should be, because baseball has come back into its own. With the war's over, it had a tough time during the war, gave away $1,200,000 of World Series money alone, $2,600,000 odd of baseball money, and it deserves the little that it's going to get here from this great series. From a baseball standpoint, there's very little to choose between these two clubs, and it might very well be such a series as the last one the Tigers were in when they came right down to the wire with the Cincinnati Reds in 1940 in a 7-game series. The pitchers are both corking good pitchers. Hank Leroy of Fordham, well known in the East, great Yankee pitcher before he went to the Cubs, and of course the hometown boy, the Willoway, Hal Newhouser, one of the great left-handers that the game has produced, and naturally a prime favorite here in Detroit. I saw old Bill Clem, chief of the umpires of the National League, downstairs, and I mentioned to him it was a little chilly, and Bill said, "Yes, Bill, it's always cold when Detroit's in the World Series." He said, "I remember back 1909 when they're playing the Pirates in that series." He said, "Doc Cook, the fellow was supposed to have discovered the North Pole, was here, and he left in the 3rd inning." Well, it isn't that cold today, folks, but it is nippy football weather. But the sun is shining, and I've seen lots worse baseball days, and there have been many a day in this season that the baseball people would have settled for weather such as this. Breast wind, the outfielders are going to have to watch that, and when the sun's not behind the clouds, they're going to have a high sky here. But we'll see great baseball this afternoon, and speaking of umpires, Bill Summers, American League umpire, will be the umpire-in-chief behind the plate, but I saw another old umpire, fellow operating the press box elevator here, and that was Bill Lord Byron, a great old umpire, the singing umpire in his day. The fellow used to say, when players protested about called strikes, used to say, "Young man, you'll have to be a little bolder. You can't hit the ball with a bat upon your shoulder." That was Lord Byron, who now is running the elevator here at Brick Stadium, and told me that he was 70 years old. And in the elevator with him was the only man, I'm sure, that's seen every World Series played, 43, including this one, Joe Page, famous Canadian railroad man, here not only to see this, but seen every modern World Series and some before that. And Bill Slater said to you that you went back to Huey Jennings for Detroit victories. That's true in this league in modern World Series times. But Detroit won a championship before that under a man named Watkins when they were known as the Wolverines and in the National League. Now, from a pitching standpoint, I don't see that there's anything favoring either one of these fellas in the day. Leroy is a good curveball pitcher, got a lot of speed, and of course we all know that Newhouser is the same. The Cubs will hit speedball pitching. That's the reason I don't believe that Virgil Fire Trucks, who came back to the Tigers from the service just before the American League season ended, will be such a great help as a lot of people think, because I know the kind of pitching that bothers the Cubs is clutterball pitching, such as Jim Tobin of the Braves used to throw at them. In fact, I remember that Tobin beat him 7 out of 9 last year or something like that. Well, fans, that's Coram's story for the moment, but I'll be back after the game to tell you how things look to me from the press box.
Fans, there's little doubt that Americans want a hard peace for those guilty of starting the war. But none of us wants a hard peace for the millions of destitute men, women, and children in allied countries freed from Axis enslavement. And yet, without our help, cruel and bitter times lie ahead for the folks who are still fighting famine, pestilence, and cold. One of the chief hopes for their salvation lies in the National War Fund, a federation of 19 major relief and welfare agencies. These agencies are over there, distributing blankets to people who have shivered for years, cod liver oil for undernourished children, seeds to replant farms, medicine to fight plagues, and they're doing many other life-saving tasks, too. So when you're asked to donate to the Community War Fund, dig down deep. Let's be generous in victory. And now here are the starting lineups, as they have been announced for the rival managers as this 1945 World Series is about to get underway. For Chicago, the visiting team, the leadoff hitter will be Stanley Hack, their great third baseman. This is his 4th World Series. He's a California lad. At second base and batting number 2 for the Chicago Cubs will be Don Johnson, a 34-year-old second baseman who was born in Cincinnati and he lives out in Los Angeles now. Batting number 3 for Chicago, Harry Lee Lowry, Lowrey, 27-year-old discharged GI, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Batting number 4 for Chicago and the great hometown favorite along the midway is Phil Cavretta, 28-year-old star first baseman, the number 1 hitter in the National League this year, playing in his 3rd World Series. He's born, raised, and lives in Chicago. Batting number 5 for the Cubs is center fielder Andy Papko, a 24-year-older who comes from up in Boyceville, Wisconsin. Batting number 6 for them is Bad Bill Nicholson, the Maryland gentleman who is playing his 8th year with Chicago at the age of 30. He's born and he lives in Chestertown, Maryland, his own hometown. Batting number 7 for the Cubs is Thompson Livingston, better known as Mickey, a 31-year-old discharged member of the Army Ground Forces who comes from Newberry, South Carolina. Batting number 8 for Chicago is Roy Hughes, the shortstop. He's a 34-year-older who was born in Cincinnati and lives in Los Angeles, like Don Johnson. And batting 9th and pitching this afternoon for the Cubs in this first ball game is 27-year-old Hank Baroy, the pride of Bloomfield, New Jersey. This is the 3rd World Series for Hank. He pitched 2 with the Yankees. Here's the batting order for the homestanding Detroit Tigers. The leadoff hitter will be 34-year-old James Webb, W-E-B-B. He was born and he lives in Meridian, Mississippi. Batting number 2 for Detroit, Eddie Mayo, their second baseman. He was in the World Series with the Giants back 9 years ago. He was born in Massachusetts. He lives in Clifton, New Jersey. Batting number 3 for Detroit, Roger Kramer, the 39-year-old veteran playing his 17th year in the majors. He was born in Beach Haven, New Jersey, and he lives in Manahawkin now in the same state. Batting number 4 for Detroit is Captain Hank Greenberg, discharged recently from the Army Air Forces after distinguished service. Hank at 34 is in his 3rd World Series. And now the Tigers are coming out on the field. Batting number 5 for them will be Roy Cullenbine. He's from Tennessee. Batting 6th will be Big Rudy York, the first baseman. Batting 7th will be Jimmy Outlaw, the 3rd baseman. Batting 8th will be Paul Richards, the catcher. And batting 9th will be Hal Newhouser. Umpire at the plate is Bill Summers of the American League. At first base is Lou Jorda of the National League. At second is Passarella of the American League. And at third is Conlon of the National League. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present to you the man who will broadcast the play-by-play of the first half of the ball game. He served with distinction in the United States Navy as a lieutenant commander. Your friend and mine, Al Helfa. Al?
Well, thank you, Bill, very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And it certainly is a privilege and a pleasure to be here at Briggs Stadium in Detroit this afternoon to see this 43rd World Series about to get underway. The lineups as given you by Bill Slater remain intact and are absolutely authentic. We'll set the Detroit Tigers for you defensively just before the ball game gets underway. Now the first ball will be thrown out by Commissioner Chandler. Commissioner Chandler last evening in his suite here in the Hotel Statler in Detroit was very proud to be here in Detroit. Was very proud that he was able to see a peacetime World Series this year. And he is to throw the first ball out for this game. Now here are the Tigers for you defensively as the ball comes out. Hal Newhouser on the mound, who has amassed an amazing record for 2 years of play with the Detroit Tigers. That's speaking principally of the last 2 years, in which he has won 54 ball games and lost 18. In 1944, Hal Newhouser won 29 games and lost 9. Well, this year, I think everyone is familiar with his record of 25 wins and 9 defeats. However, not only has he been the leading pitcher, but also he has led in striking out men. He struck out 187 last year and 212 this year. Now we pause 10 seconds for station identification. Remember, men, look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Use Gillette Blue Blades with the sharpest edges ever honed. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This is WGN Chicago, serving the Middle West.
Now we're just seconds away from the very first pitch of the 1945 World Series, and Stanley Hack, who this year in the National League hit a snappy .322, is stepping up to the plate to be the first hitter. Stan hits left-handed and stands very deep in batter's box. Stands just off the plate. Now Newhouser out on the mound, takes his sign from Richard. The left-hander pumps once, kicks high, throws a fast curve that is low. And that is the first pitch of the ball game. And the ball is taken over and given to Happy Chandler. Of course, the first pitch that is made will not go down in the official record books as the first pitch of the series. This one that is coming up right now will be the first official pitch. And now the ball game is about to get underway. Al Newhouser looking down at Stanley Hack. Here comes his first pitch now. It's a fastball. It's hit down across the carpet to third base. Jimmy Adrat third comes up nicely. Throws the end, and that's all for Hack. So the first pitch ball results in the first Chicago out here in the 1945 World Series. As Stanley Hack bounces down to Outlaw and is thrown out. Don Johnson is the second hitter in the Chicago batting order. Don Johnson, the 34-year-old right-hander, playing at second base for Chicago. And his play has been sparkling this year on the inner defense. We'll set the Tigers for you defensively now with Hal Newhouser on the mound. Richards behind the plate. At first base is Big Rudy York. At second base is Eddie Mayo. At shortstop, Skeeter Webb. And at third base, Jimmy Outlaw. Out in left field is Hank Greenberg. In center is Kramer. And in right field, Kellen Bond. Newhouser pitches a fast one in there that's swung on a miss for a strike. No balls, one strike is the count on Don Johnson, the Chicago second baseman. Newhouser throws another medium-speed curveball. It's hit back past the mound and back over center field for a base hit. Well, Johnson is on. That ball was partially stopped by Hal Newhouser, the pitcher, but it came right off his glove and moved in behind second base. The batter coming up now is Peanuts Lowry. So the first hit in the 1945 World Series is picked up by Don Johnson, the Chicago second baseman. Peanuts Lowry isn't very big. He stands about 5'7 and a half. It's right-handed. And stands in the wide spread eagle stance deep at the plate. Newhouser checked his runner at first, throws a fast one into the plate that swung on and fouled out for strike one. No balls, one strike is the count on Peanuts Lowry. On deck to hit next, in case he's needed, is Phil Cavretta, the National League batting champion this year. Peanuts Lowry, as he stands at the plate, is a 283 hitter this year. Johnson leads off first, one away, top of the first inning. Newhouser throws quickly to first, but Johnson steps in ahead of it. Rudy York returns the ball to the mound. Top of the first inning, one out, no score. Al Newhouser takes his stretch, looks at first again. Down comes his delivery. It's a fast curve that misses just outside. That moves the count up to an even status on Peanuts Lowry. Newhouser again with that gandering check over at first. Delivers a fast curve outside. It's ball two. 2-1. 2 balls, one strike. Newhouser taking a little time now. His back visits the rosin bag. Looks around, checks his infield. Now checks his runner at first. First to the plate, there goes the runner. It's swung on the middle plate for a strike. And there goes into the second baseman, Eddie Mayo covering, and it gets away from him. And Johnson sliding under the tag, incidentally, is on at second base. So it is going to be a stolen base. The first one in the series. And Johnson steals second. So now the Chicago Cubs have a runner at second base. One out. Lowry was up there and swung on that last pitch and missed it. And now a little time is being taken out down behind third base. Riley Turner of the Detroit Tigers comes out there. Eddie Mayo has come down. He went down on both knees trying to stop that throw by Richards, the catcher, attempting to get Don Johnson as he broke for second base with a hit and run on. And apparently he twisted his right ankle segment. as they are giving him a little treatment on his right ankle. However, this is the picture here in the top half of the first inning. Stanley Hack became the first out as he was thrown out by Outlaw from third base. Then Don Johnson hit a ball very sharply. Back past the mound, Hal Newhouser tried to flag it down, but the ball caromed off the top of his outstretched fingertips and rolled back at second base and out into very short center field for a base hit. Then with the count on Lowry of 2 balls and 1 strike, Don Johnson was sent down by Charlie Grimm to try to take second base. And Peanuts Lowry swung to protect the runner, missed the ball completely for strike 2. And Paul Richards' peg went down to second base to Eddie Mayhew covering there. But Don Johnson's slide was in at second base safely, and he is credited with the first steal of the 1945 World Series. And that's how it stands right now in the top half of the first inning. There's no score as yet, but the Chicago Cubs are threatening slightly with a man at second and 1 out. Peanuts Lowry up the plate right now with a count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. And he has an opportunity of hammering in a run here because Johnson is very fleet of foot. Lowry, by the way, in his year's work in the National League, batted in 87 runs. Now Newhouser checks his runner at second. We're ready to go again. He delivers the plate's fastball hit high into center field. Doc Kramer comes charging in under it in short left center now and takes it for the out. Johnson has to move back into second base. So Lowry is out of there, flying out to Doc Kramer for the second out. The batter now is Phil Cavretta, who was the National League batting champion this year, hitting at .355. And Cavretta, too, has batted in quite a few runs in the National League. As a matter of fact, he had 96 of them across the plate for his ball club this year. Phil Cavretta has been in 2 World Series, in 1935 and 1938 with the Chicago Cubs. Played his first series at the age of 18. Hal Newhouser, who was with the Detroit Tigers in 1940 when they won the World Championship, and had a record of 9-9, but did not appear in the series. But he's appearing today, believe me. He pitches to the plate now, and it's a low, fast curve. It gets away from Richards, but he scampers after it quickly, puts it up, and Don Johnson does not break from second base. So that low pitch into the dirt is just ball 1 to Phil Cavretta. 1 ball, no strikes. Rudy York calls for time, runs over from first base. He wants to say something to this 24-year-old left-hander, Hal Newhouser. Now he trots back behind first. That York is a big fella, believe me. Now Newhouser peers down to Paul Richards. Crafty catcher takes the sign, looks back at second, delivers to the plate, and Cavretta takes another low curve that bounces into the dirt for ball 2. Richards came up with it very nicely, kept it from going through. There are 2 outs on Chicago here in the top half of the first inning, and Don Johnson, with a single and a steal of second, is on at second. There's no score. Newhouser stretches, again checks second base, delivers a fastball to the plate that is hit down across the carpet towards second base. Eddie Mayo comes in, picks it up, flips it over to Rudy York, and it's not in time. It's not in time at first base. And it goes as a base hit for Phil Cavretta, a very slow roller down to second base. And Johnson moves over to third on the play. So Chicago now has runners at first and third, 2 outs. And Andy Pafko hitting at .298 for his season's work in the National League. And he can go get him out to center field. He's really a speed merchant. Pafko has hit in 111 runs in the National League this year. He has his opportunity now with 2 outs and runners at first and third. The first pitch is made to him, and it's a low, fast curve on the outside for ball 1. So here in the top of the first inning, there is no score, but the Chicago Cubs are threatening, and Hal Newhouser is waiting around in hot water. He delivers the plate, a fast, low curve that gets away from Richards and rolls back. Here comes Johnson breaking from third, and he comes on in the score. And moving down to second base, very easily on the play, is Phil Cavretta. And it is judged to be a pass ball. So Johnson scores the first run of the 1945 World Series on a pass ball. Cavretta, with his fastball, has moved down to second base. And now Andy Pafko is going to be purposely put on. There's ball 3 and ball 4 on the outside. Bill Nicholson is coming to the plate now. It's a 1-0 ball game in favor of the Chicago Cubs. Newhouser delivers the plate. Nicholson has a long drive going out into right field. Going way over and getting under it now is Tony Klein, and he can't make the catch. It falls behind him. In comes 1 run, and Nicholson winds up at
base. 2 runs came pouring across the plate as right on the heels of Cavretta came a guy by the name of Andy Pafko. We told you he could run, and he really moved. And it's very quickly now 3-0 in favor of the Chicago Cubs of the National League. As Nicholson hit one deep, back with a 370-foot sign in right field. And Cullen Vine could not come up with it, so it's a triple for Nicholson. Hit the right. That's the third hit. Good for runs 2 and 3. And the batter to plate now is Mickey Livingston, hitting right-handed. Swings in the first pitch and doesn't get it. For strike 1. Nicholson leading off at third base. Down comes the next pitch, and there's a ball hit back to second base. And out into center field on the ground all the way for a base hit, and the 4th run comes in for Chicago. Mickey Livingston hit right back through the middle. Coming up to the plate right now is Hughes, the shortstop. 2 outs here in the top of the first inning. Chicago, the National League, leading 4-0. Newhouser makes the first pitch, and it's a fastball that's right through for a strike. Hughes hits right-handed. He stands very deep at the plate and crouches. Newhouser goes to the plate. There goes the runner, and it's a high curve. It's taken. And the play down to second base, Eddie Mayo is in time as the sliding spikes of Livingston is in there, and he is out. Out stealing from the catcher, Richards, to Eddie Mayo, the second baseman. So in the first inning, 4 runs for the Chicago Cubs. And the score is Chicago 4 and Detroit nothing.